From Kern Government Television, welcome to this week's Kern County Board of Supervisors meeting, originating from the County Administrative Center located at 1115 Truxtun Avenue, Bakersfield, California. Kern County's vision is to create and maintain a customer-centered county government designed to garner the confidence, support, and trust of the people we serve. Today's Kern County Board of Supervisors meeting will convene momentarily.
Good morning and welcome to the December 10th, 2019 meeting of the Board of Supervisors. Board to reconvene. The first item is roll call.
Supervisor Gleason.
Here.
Supervisor Scrivener.
Here.
Supervisor Maggard.
Here.
Supervisor Couch.
Here.
Supervisor Perez.
Thank you. The next item is the salute to the flag. It is going to be led today by Matt Constantine. Matt earned this distinction today with his performance yesterday. Please join Matt in the flag salute and please remain standing for a moment of prayer, silence, or meditation, whichever you prefer. Thank you.
Please salute. Pledge. Pledge allegiance to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The next item is our pet of the week. Is Nick here yet this morning? He's here.
He
Come
is.
on out.
Good morning.
Who's this?
Good morning. This morning I have with me Merle. Merle? Correct. As in Merle Haggard.
Is it Merle Haggard Drive?
Merle is about a 2-year-old Chihuahua mix. He's a little scared this morning, but he's about the sweetest dog you could come across. I mean, I think we've done 11 or 12 Pet of the Weeks here, and he's probably the sweetest one we've come across. Like I said, he's about a 2-year-old Chihuahua mix. He's about 11 pounds. He's full grown. He's an adult dog, but he gets along. He's one of those chameleon dogs. He's going to get along with your family and any dogs that you might have. He's a super good dog, well-adjusted, going to make a really good family pet. He's available for adoption Thursday
Do you think he could get along with former Supervisor Barbara Patrick? She's here today.
I think he can get along with anybody, any human or dog.
Barbara, he's available for adoption. Thank you, Nick. How about Tater, our last week's dog, got...
Tater got adopted he was available Friday morning, got adopted Friday morning.
So how many, we are what for what?
Well, we are 11 for 11, and this is 12.
Okay. Pressure's on, Merle.
Thank you.
See you later. Thank you. Okay. The next item is the consent agenda. All items listed with a CA or a C above the item number are considered to be routine and non-controversial by county staff. The CA represents the consent agenda for the Board of Supervisors. The C represents the consent agenda for the Kern Sanitation Authority or the Ford City Taft Heights Sanitation District and or the IHSS Public Authority. Consent agenda items will be considered first and may be approved by one motion. If a member of the audience wishes to comment or ask questions regarding an item or items on the consent agenda, they may do so prior to a vote being taken on the consent agenda. A member of the board may remove any item from the consent agenda, and it will be considered in listed sequence with an opportunity for any member of the public to address the board concerning the item before the action is taken. See, I thought my way was a lot better. That's why I just wanted to let you guys know that's what I've saved you from for all these meetings. Let me tell you what's on the consent agenda. Starts on page 2, items 1 through 5 and 8. Page 3, items 9 through 15. Page 4, all the items 16 through 23. Page 5, item 24, and then 28 through 31. Page 6, items 32 through 36, and 38 and 39. Page 7, all the items 40 through 46. And page 8, all the items 47 through 52. Is there anyone here who would like to make a comment on any of those items or ask for separate consideration on any of those items? Seeing none, I'll return it to the board for motion on the consent agenda.
Motion on consent.
Second.
Please cast your votes.
The
Well done,
motion
Mr.
is
Chairman.
approved.
Well done.
4 ayes, 1 absent. Supervisor Perez.
Thank you. That takes us back to page 2, over to page 2 under public presentations. It's item 6. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons to address the board on any matter not on the agenda, but under the jurisdiction of the board. Is there anyone here that would like to make a public presentation? Please come forward, state your name. We like to observe a 2-minute time period. Good morning. Mr. Nelson, good morning.
Good morning, Chairman Couch, members of the board. My name is Dave Nelson, and I'm the representative for 500 other Kern County firefighters. I'm before you this morning in regards to a news article that we'll be running on a local channel later in the week. This news article appearing once again to be an attack on our local firefighters led by the news anchor, CAO, and Chief Human Resources Officer. Thankfully, this news station had a minor mishap and posted the piece prior to their website before intending to do so. I'm grateful for some watchful eyes, web archiving services that have allowed us to obtain all of the data in the video associated with the piece. Upon reviewing the content, it is very clear with our contributions to the story, your desires are nothing more than to continue to demean, demoralize, or villainize your firefighters. To this point, I am baffled. What is the purpose? We have gone through the entirety of the negotiations process. You have the ability to use every avenue to impose the last, best, and final offer you prepared. The video roll contained in this news segment clearly demonstrates one of two things to myself and my members. You either truly do not care about your employees, using the segment to once again kick your employees while you are down, or simply using us as pawns for your next step in the political arena. Either way, actions speak louder than words, and these behaviors are reprehensible at best. The statements made are clearly intended to incite discord amongst your employees, my members, and I can only hope that neither of those were the intent as demonstrated in the statements we observed in the video. The story that hasn't been told in this situation is this: your firefighters are workers. We take pride in providing for our families, pride in the service we provide to the community. We are proud of the fact that we are the people there for them when they're in their most extreme times of need, to assist where they can't do for themselves, to care when no one else cares, to listen, provide a tissue for their tears, or get them a glass of water. We are there when no one else is. We are the ones caring for the critically injured baby in the middle of the freeway whose car was just ripped in half by a semi, killing her mother and critically injuring her father. We're the ones 15 years later wondering exactly how that little girl is doing, how difficult it must have been growing up without a mother. Did she stay in school? Did she make it to her prom? Worse, did she even live? We're the ones who on any given holiday are providing life-saving efforts for someone's loved one in cardiac arrest on the living room floor of their lifelong home. After exhausting those efforts, having now to switch from rescuer to counselor, helping an elderly woman to the floor so she can say goodbye and give her one last kiss to her husband of 60 years. Seeing the grief and uncertainty on her face as she fumbles through her new smartphone to find the numbers she needs to call her children and grandchildren, helping her tidy up the house, turn off the stove, fold laundry, looking at pictures as she shares her life with us, the whole time wondering what she does now. How is she going to get through life? You may laugh, but these are the things that your loved ones go through when suddenly you are no longer with them, but we are. We remember when we see you in the grocery store. We say hello. We remember you. Yes, we do. We remember your plight, your pain. We keep you in our hearts, our thoughts, and prayers. We are glad that our actions helped you cope with whatever tragedy brought us together. We hope ourselves that the very same kindness and compassion are delivered to our families in their times of need, because we are professionals. These aren't, though, the stories you tell, nor do you consider them in the statements you make, because you weren't there. You don't know what our job is, nor do you respect what it is we do. You don't hold the hand of someone as they're taking their last breath. You don't get to see the firsthand atrocities taking place on our streets, our young ones shooting, stabbing, killing each other, others making those ill-fated decisions to stick the needles in their arms. You don't get to see the decline of youth in our community, your attempts to intervene, coach them down the right path, become invested in trying to get them back on the right track, keeping an eye out for them on the streets as we're doing our daily duties, only to find them a week later, dead. You do not understand these things. You haven't placed your family second to anything but the camera and the campaign trail. You understand only that you need something to hang your name on, something that will make you stand out within your political circles, something or someone who you have had a hand in defeating something that fits the narrative to get yourself to the next rung on your journey. Is it how you're going to leave your mark on the world? What is it that you want to see out of your firefighters? My feelings are you could care less about having highly trained, experienced tradesmen well skilled in the crafts of firefighting. My feelings are you could not even give one iota about what it is that we do. A firefighter who is able to make a split-second decision based on their experience, knowledge of building construction, fire and smoke behavior, who knows based on conditions there is 90 seconds to enter your burning home, locate your husband, wife, or child, and get them to safety. A firefighter who is experienced knows based off his training and the hundreds, if not thousands of previous calls exactly where to cut, push, or pry to extricate you from your mangled vehicle and get you en route to a trauma center within the 10 minutes needed to improve your survival rate. A firefighter who through endless hours of training in line with their experience knows exactly how, when, and who to deliver top-shelf emergency medical care. These days are behind us of Band-Aids, gauze, and tape. We're administering life-saving medications, performing procedures that have been unheard of by firefighters of the past. We are on the cutting edge of emergency medicine in Kern County. My final points are these. Thursday morning, a local news channel will attempt to vilify one of our firefighters and do based on the fact that he was compensated for working hard to provide a great service to the citizens of this community. A person that is a politician in charge of this county should be proud to be overseeing. You paid this man for his training, education, and above all, his experience. Take pride in the fact you have highly experienced and skilled fire service. Take credit for their success and support them to become even more successful. Build them up. Don't continue to break them down. These continued attempts at defaming our firefighters has left me no other choice than to take the actions that I am today. I cannot, nor will it continue to be allowed to attack any member of my organization. I will hold you, the Board of Supervisors, accountable for your acts and negative actions of your staff. We will hold you accountable for any negative portrayal in the media, as it is typically grown from a seed you or your staff members have planted. Thank you for your time, and please remember, you are clamoring for that next rung. That ladder is not as stable as you think. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Are there any other public statements today, public presentations? Gabby Valle? Oh. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning to the supervisors, also to the local community. We're here on behalf of California Youth Connection. CYC is a statewide org that works with current and former foster care. And I'm going to introduce Christina to you, who's going to share a little bit about her experiences with our work. And we're going to mention two current campaigns we have going on, letting you know what's happening in this county as well.
Hello, it's an honor to be here. So what we have here is no stigmas, no barriers for foster youth. And transition-age youth, TAY, which is between the ages of 16 to 28 years old, experience higher rates of difficulty in accessing housing, education, and employment. I am actually one of those youth. I have been in foster care since the age of 6 years old due to my parents being drug addicts and alcoholics and stuff. And living in foster care, I've experienced homelessness at an early age. At the age of 7, I got kicked out of my foster home. I got kicked out of my foster home at the age of 15 because I got pregnant at an early age too. So I was homeless for about a year until a social worker that I really adored, she found a place for me to stay, but it wasn't a forever home. I never found my forever home due to the stigmas and the barriers that we are facing as foster youth. Growing up in the foster care, we have a stigma of, oh, you're not going to go to college, you're not going to graduate high school, you're going to be just like your parents. Well, I'm going to tell you here that's not true, because I graduated high school with my daughter. I went to college. I haven't graduated yet, but I'm on the verge of graduating. This is something that CYC and that CYC has actually helped me and a lot of other foster youth. And it's not just here in Kern County, it's all across California. It's up in Oakland, San Francisco, Sacramento, down in San Diego, LA, Fresno, Madera. Right now, what we're working toward is the no stigma, no barriers.
So what are you studying?
I am studying to become a social worker.
Need a job?
I do.
We'll get you one.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. And that's part of what CYC's 30-year mission has been about, is really connecting young folks who have the lived experience. I'm also going to turn a little bit to the community here, because you all have so much more power than you think. When she comes down your pipeline, and at this point, everyone only gets a job reference online, you can't see the whole person. So please don't be deterred if they share that they're in foster care. If anything, bump them up to the top of the line, because these are the young folks that have struggled so much at such a young age to get to work. By the time they get to you and they're applying to work with you, you're going to have the best of the best. That's who's coming to you. So thank you all for this morning. We were here not with a hard ask, but with a soft, heartfelt ask, and letting you know that we're around, that we've got projects going on like HEAL. And HEAL is simply reminding all of us in the broader community that what young foster folks need is health and wellness, support and education, right? A place to live, lifelong connections. And I'm going to hand it back to Christina, because I could read those bullet points and so can you, but really this is part of the work that she's been doing.
So this CYC campaign, it's been about a year now, and I'm actually on their Ledge and Policy Committee, and we're trying to go forward with the HEAL, which is the health and wellness. In order for us foster youth to achieve this, we gotta have a healthy mind, healthy body, education, extracurricular activities. As a foster youth, I wasn't allowed to be able to do extracurricular activities, and if I was allowed to be able to do that, I would be able to go higher and higher and higher from when I wanted to. A place to call home. A place to call home is a forever home that we want. It can be with the foster parent, it can be with the family, or it can even be with our own. Like my place to call home is with me and my children, and that's mine. Lifelong connections and relationships. CYC is a youth-led organization, and CYC is you develop lifelong connections. I've been in CYC for 5 years already, and I've developed so many friendships, so many opportunities, especially this opportunity right here that is presented in front of me. Foster Stability to Heal is something that we came up with about a year ago, and it's to help us, to help our future generation of foster youth to basically to go forward and move on with life without the barriers and stigmas that are in place.
Thank you, Christina. In your packets, you'll find actually some really shocking information that makes really important links between the fact that once foster care folks age out at the age of 18 and there aren't enough resources and there isn't a big enough net, there's a really direct link to rising homelessness rates, right? So we see that across the state anyway, but we want to today highlight that there's a big link with foster care youths being a part of that broader picture. We've left with you the name of the local regional coordinator in this area. His name is Blade. He couldn't make it this morning, but his information is in your packet. So if you have any follow-up you want to do here locally with awesome folks like Christina, who is here from Bakersfield, please do. We thank you for your time and support all around. Thank you.
Thank you.
Christina, I was serious. If you need a job, you can stop by my office. I'd love to talk to you.
We'll do that today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And if he doesn't give you one, go to the other side of the building to District 4. Thank you very much both for being here.
Thank you.
Any other public presentations? The next item is board member announcements and reports. I know Supervisor Scribner would like to get in there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a referral to staff. I've got quite a bit to read here, and I appreciate the indulgence of my colleagues, but I think this is really important because I believe that our local economy is under attack by Sacramento. I want to read a quote from the governor at the Regions Rise meeting in Fresno on November 8th. This is a quote. "By many measures, California's economy is booming. We are the 5th largest economy in the world, but this growth is not shared across the entire state. It's heavily concentrated along our coast. Growth must mean inclusion, and inclusion means ensuring that the Central Valley and the Inland Empire get the resources and attention from state leaders necessary to strengthen economic opportunity. That's a quote from Governor Gavin Newsom. I'll tell you, equitable upward social mobility will not be attainable if the governor does not actively engage local stakeholders before implementing major policy directives that can decimate a company's value overnight and potentially impact the local property tax rolls. Berry Petroleum Company, for example, saw a roughly 50% decline in its stock value after the governor's recent announcement in November to place a moratorium on new wells that use high-pressure steaming to extract oil and gas. 50% in one moment. For the year 2019-2020, Berry Petroleum Company had a net assessed value of $796.9 million and contributed over $9 million in property tax revenue to Kern County. In fiscal year 2016-17, the county implemented a 4-year deficit mitigation plan as a result of decreased property tax revenues from our oil and gas properties. This in turn resulted in severe austerity measures which had an impact on the quality of services we were able to provide our citizens. And every department head and every employee of the county knows the pain we went through and the effort that we all had to exert in order to close that $44.5 million structural deficit. Clamping down on California's oil and gas production not only has the potential to place Kern in yet another fiscal emergency, it simultaneously requires the state to become more reliant on petroleum that is produced overseas by nations that do not share our environmental safety standards. And I'd also offer they don't share our human rights standards and a lot of other values that we hold dear here in the United States of America. The recent actions by the state of California are aimed at preventing oil permitting and ultimately phasing out fossil fuels. Our state economy would not be booming if it wasn't for the oil industry. Our economy depends on business confidence and a stable and certain pathway to energy permitting. The governor's recent actions send a strong signal that California is actively engaged in driving out one of the state's largest employers, the oil industry. These actions send a message: don't invest in Kern County. While Sacramento can imply that they are talking about all the places in the state that produce oil, the target is most definitely Kern County. We produce 80% of the oil and 46% of the gas that has helped California become the 5th largest economy in the world. The governor's actions are irresponsible and insulting, considering the extensive work Kern has done to regulate our oil industry in a way that protects our air, our water, and our neighborhoods, and at an increased cost to our local oil producers. Yet our industries continue to be told that they are avoiding regulations and need more oversight by the state. We must stand up for our industry partners in Kern. I'm also interested in understanding how the governor's announcement in November to open the Central Valley field office will help to better align the governor's policy directives with our community, which is currently not being served with the same efficacy as our fellow residents in other parts of the state. And so my referral, and I'll ask my colleagues to support me on this, is as follows. This is a referral to the CAO's office and to our Director of Planning and Natural Resources to pursue the following. 1, invite the oil industry to come before the Board of Supervisors to present the impacts on our ability to function in California and maintain a stable business in the face of increased regulation. Number 2, organize a coalition in support of the oil industry to communicate to Sacramento and the governor the importance of our oil and gas industry to our neighborhoods, family, and our future. Number 3, report back to the Board of Supervisors on the impacts of this threat to the fiscal stability of the county, which may necessitate consideration of a declaration of an economic crisis based on the findings. The constant attack on our oil industry continues to erode our fiscal stability and our way of life here in Kern. The governor is failing us and the Central Valley. The arrogance and hypocrisy of this administration to deny Californians access to our own natural resource, God-given natural resources is appalling, and I think enough is enough. And so I'd ask my colleagues to support me on those three referrals. Thank you. That is a motion.
Could I ask that we include, I was going to make a referral, although not nearly as eloquent as that this morning, and it was going to request that our CAO ask the director of the California Department of Conservation, I believe his name is David Shabazian, and also the new director of what is now called CASGEM, which used to be Dogger, to come down and tell us what the change from Dogger to CalGEM means and what the policies that Supervisor Scrivener just laid out mean for Kern County. I think I'd like to hear from those state officials down there and allow us to question them as well. Would you mind if we included that in your?
I'd be happy to. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. So you have a motion and a second, and that addition. Do you need anything else, Mr. Alsop?
No, sir.
Supervisor Perez.
Thank you so much, Chairman. I think this is an excellent opportunity for Kern County to showcase and highlight who we are in relationship to the state's energy portfolio and, frankly, the United States of America. We are the renewable energy capital of California. And according to USA Today, we are the #1 county in the United States of America for renewable energy capacity. And that is, of course, without any ambiguity, because of the kind of planning, the kind of foresight, the kind of devotion to being actual energy experts. And it is really extraordinary to think that as the oil and gas capital, that our expertise within that field has granted the science, the incentives, the people to develop new and emerging markets that we know are important, not just politically, but actually, and given Kern County's role in being the most critical part of California's portfolio standard. In light of who we are in relationship to the rest of the state and relationship to the country, I think this really is an excellent opportunity to highlight who we are. We have, in my opinion, the best, most sophisticated and brilliant planning director in this country, certainly California. That is something to be proud of. It is something to tout. And it is a department that is remarkably efficient and makes magic happen, often under-resourced. So I think this is a great opportunity, Supervisor Scrivener, to really communicate to the rest of the state all of the facets of who we are, why it matters, who it matters to, and how we should have that discussion in the broader energy portfolio world as it continues to shift and become increasingly more complex. So I appreciate the referral. In my discussions around the Capitol, when I highlight who we are as energy experts, there is usually lots to be impressed by and much more curiosity about who we are in Kern County. So I think this is a great opportunity. I welcome the conversation, and I want to thank our planning director and our planning department for putting us in USA Today, because I think that's pretty cool to be quoted and to be highlighted by the people watching this at the highest levels. It really says something about us that is special. It's something to be proud of, and I believe that with Kern County at the table, with the kind of expertise, the kind of geniuses that make this work, I believe that it can be really positive. We can continue to expand who we are and how people think of us, and we can do that in a spirit of civility. So thank you, Zach. I appreciate you.
Thanks.
Support your motion.
Sorry for cutting the mic off on you. Supervisor Scrivener, then Supervisor Maggard.
I'm done.
Okay.
Thank you. I heartily support your referral, Supervisor Scrivener. And I just want to remind us that this is an arbitrary decision which will have arbitrary consequences that will devastate the lives of tens of thousands of people without any regard for those consequences, because somebody decided arbitrarily to make that decision. So I heartily support it, and thank you for bringing it to us.
So you had a motion and a second, and I asked for an amendment. Does the maker of the second go along with the amendment?
Yes, and I just want to thank, thanks for the opportunity. I just want to thank Zach for his leadership on this. Zach, East Kern's right there with you, behind you, supporting this great idea. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So you have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes.
Okay, we need to vote again. Thank you. The motion is approved. All ayes.
Thank you. Supervisor Scrivener has maybe another referral.
Yeah, thank you. This isn't a referral, and I apologize because I have to totally shift gears. We, in the 2nd District, we lost someone who has been a very exceptional leader, a really special person. That's Ed Waldheim. Ed was a leader in the off-highway vehicle community, and which is a huge impact to a positive impact to our tourism industry in Kern County and Eastern Kern specifically. You can have any given weekend, a 3-day weekend where you have tens of thousands of people that come from all over the state to enjoy the opportunities for off-highway vehicle recreation. And Ed just was a constant and steadfast and passionate supporter of that industry, and just a tremendous person in every facet of life in California City. And Ed was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and I asked for this board to honor him in recognition of his contributions to Kern County. And that was 3 years ago, almost to the day, December 13th of 2016. I wanted to have Ed in here to be honored when he was in relative good health and felt relatively well. Despite the fact that he'd been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. He made it for 3 years and fought. And I think that's such a testament to who he was. He was such a strong, passionate, resolute person. And so I would please ask that we adjourn today's meeting in his memory and his honor.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Supervisor Perez.
Thank you so much. Just quick announcement, Councilman Willie Rivera, Kelly and myself will be hosting again a pajama party for children at the homeless shelter. We have lots. They always increase in numbers as we get closer to Christmas, which I find particularly heart-wrenching. But nonetheless, we work hard to make sure that they have a nice Christmas morning with cozy pajamas and clean and new and soft, which they all love. So please, please think about bringing a pair of pajamas to my office, or a package of pajamas, or mitts or mittens, whatever is on your heart. Also, we will be having an actual party this Sunday at my home if you're interested in attending. But I will be partnering with Kelly A. as well as Councilman Willie Rivera in making sure these kids have something to celebrate on Christmas. So please, please consider it. So appreciate your contributions and consciousness of these young people. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others? Seeing none, we'll go over to item 25 under the CAO's office. This is a proposed ordinances amending sections of Chapter 2.94 and 2.170 of the Kern County Ordinance Code regarding the Kern Health Systems and the Kern County Hospital Authority to allow for an integrated safety net delivery system.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I'm going to recuse myself on this item. My wife is employed by Adventist Health, and under the thoughtful advice of counsel, I'm going to declare a potential conflict on this as a source of income to myself, so I'm going to recuse myself on this item. Thank you.
Very good.
Mr. Chairman, I've gotten the same advice from counsel that I need to recuse myself from this discussion, so I'll be doing that.
Thank you. Mr. Alsop?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Before getting into a PowerPoint we have prepared for you this morning, your Board of Supervisors are considering amending the ordinances that form both the Kern Health Systems and the Kern County Hospital Authority, two entities that you created to ensure the development of an integrated healthcare delivery system with common goals and objectives, formally. This has been a long-stated goal of your board, given the enhancement to the quality of care for low-income residents, administrative efficiencies, and the protection of the financial viability of the county's safety net system, which you have primary responsibility for overseeing and ensuring. These changes are not going to affect the role of the local initiative. Current provider relationships will be maintained. These are relationships with Dignity Health, Adventist, the Heart Hospital, other clinics and physicians, Clinica, Omni, private physicians, with these changes. These changes do not change the current leadership of the Kern Health Systems, specifically with regard to the CEO, nor does it change the leadership of the current leadership of the hospital authority. So simply today, with these changes, your board is maintaining the current sitting Kern Health Systems board by eliminating their term limits. You're adding myself, the CAO, to the Kern Health Systems Board of Directors. As you know, I sit on the Hospital Authority Board. These changes allow for the removal of Kern Health Systems board members with or without cause by your board, which is consistent with the provisions applied to the Hospital Authority Board. These changes will allow members of the Hospital Authority Governing Board to serve as the Kern Health Systems board members, essentially filling current vacancies that are on that board. And also when vacancies arise on the Hospital Authority Board for Kern Health Systems board members to serve simultaneously on that board as well. It also allows at a future time, if your board so chooses, for a single CEO.
Mr. Alsop, can you hang on a second? I don't think the PowerPoint is following.
I'm not, I haven't started it
You haven't
yet.
started it?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm just trying to cover it. Yeah, I'm gonna blow through the PowerPoint.
Thank you.
It also allows for a future time for a single CEO to oversee both the health systems and the hospital authority at a future date. So Kern Health Systems was formed by Board of Supervisors in '94 to arrange for the provision of healthcare services. We reference the ordinance code below there, last bullet. Currently on the Health Systems Board, which is a 16-member board, we have 6 vacancies. 8 will have or have termed out. Your board action is needed to maintain representation. If you don't act, essentially at the end of the day, we're going to have 2 sitting board members on the Kern Health Systems Board. Kern Hospital Authority, as you know, was established by the Board of Supervisors, designated the public hospital and safety net provider, maintains and improves the health of all county residents, provide comprehensive high-quality care through an integrated system, explore innovative healthcare delivery models. Your the goal of our county in maintaining the safety net is caring for the vulnerable within our community and making sure that they are taken care of. So that's provided through an enhanced delivery of care, supportive medical education, and aimed and focused on service to our community. Changing the structure of the board of Kern Health Systems and the County Hospital Authority will unify and integrate strategic planning, goals and objectives, patient-centered care, appropriate use of resources, quality initiatives, and care for the most vulnerable and poor among us. Integrated delivery systems. This is best management practice. This is something, again, your board, it's been a goal of a long-term goal of your board to provide here. There are three primary components. The components are the payer, which is the health plan, the hospital and clinics, and physicians. Those together make up an integrated delivery system. The need to do this for the safety net is to align and integrate infrastructure, health outcomes, cost management, to bolster security of the safety net, strength, and again, at the end of the day, supporting the most vulnerable among us in our community. There are local examples of this. Kaiser Permanente and Adventist Health have done this. Recently, Dignity Health acquired Independence Medical Group, which is the Medi-Cal managed care provider locally. This is not a takeover of Kern Health Systems by Kern Medical. It is not a way to direct all Kern Health Systems patients to Kern Medical. It is not changing the relationship between Kern Health Systems and other hospitals, clinics, and physicians in the community. It's not changing the relationships between Kern Health Systems patients and their doctors. And it's not changing the leadership structure of Kern Health Systems. And there is no removal of the Kern Health Systems current Chief Executive Officer in what's before you today. We can't not act. Status quo is not an option. CalAIM proposal by the state of California is to implement broad delivery program and payment reform across all Medi-Cal systems. The state is pushing integrated delivery systems as a best management practice. There are examples of other counties moving in this direction, and there are local examples of that I went through earlier, on a slide earlier. Most likely, all supplemental funding for the safety net, which you oversee, will flow through the Kern Health Systems, exceeding $150 million per year. That's between the Medicaid 1115 waiver and CalAIM. So timing is of the essence. We're recommending that your board take the first step in doing this today. This will come back to you at a later date for a second vote, second approval. As you know, this is how we do ordinance changes. CalAIM is looking for significant changes to the current Medi-Cal system and structure. Again, the majority of Kern Health Systems board members are termed out of office, and there are just a large number of vacancies on that board, which you would be filling through this action with current sitting hospital authority board members. There are six slots, in addition to myself. So that's the proposed recommendation to make changes, take the first step in making changes to the ordinance of Kern Health System, the Kern County Hospital Authority, as outlined in your the board letter that is before you today. And we're happy to answer any questions you might have. And I would like to mention that we do have the CEO of Kern Health Systems in the room, the CEO of the Hospital Authority in the room, as well as quite a few representatives of the medical community. I'm sure you could call on.
Thank you. Any other staff comments? Okay. Is there anyone here who would like to make a comment on this particular item? And if, I assume there are several of you here to do that, could we get you to come down to the front row so we can get you to the microphone quickly? I mentioned earlier we try to observe a 2-minute time limit, but I don't think we need to do that here in this particular setting. Good morning.
My name is Dr. Juan Lopez. My name is spelled Juanlopez. I'm an OBGYN specialist, and in addition to teaching medical residents, I work at community health centers throughout Kern County, whose mission is to serve the poor and vulnerable of our community. In addition to Bakersfield, I proudly serve the communities of Delano, Shafter, and Wasco. I've also been a Kern Health Systems physician for the past 15 years since I graduated from Kern Medical. I support the formation of an integrated delivery system with Kern Health Systems and the Kern County Hospital Authority. As you're aware, over 40% of our county's 800,000 people receive their care through some form of Medi-Cal. I've seen over the years just how fragmented care is for our community's most vulnerable because there's been little integration between Kern Health Systems as the responsible payer and the providers. I'm excited about how such an integrated system could work similarly to other models in other counties in our state and our nation. I'm confident that the proposed integrated delivery system would allow me as a provider to better serve the patients of our community. Therefore, I urge your board to make these changes for the good of our patients. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Doctor. Who'll be next?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Russell Bigler, R-U-S-S-E-L-L, B as in boy, I-G-L-E-R. I am the chairman of the Board of Governors of the Kern County Hospital Authority. The Kern County Hospital Authority is very focused on its mission of maintaining and improving the health of all county residents. That mission includes caring for the underserved, being the county's tertiary provider, and educating the next generation of physicians for Kern County. Kern Medical provides comprehensive, high-quality treatment, health promotion, and health maintenance through an integrated system of hospital and clinic and other health services. The Kern County Hospital Authority recognizes the importance of the ordinance changes. This governance and leadership alignment certainly will allow the safety net healthcare system in Kern County to thrive and to flourish. I certainly recognize that healthcare is competitive, including the Medi-Cal segment. However, this is not a competitive move by your board or by Kern Medical. The purpose of Kern Medical is to fulfill its mission, not to be a competitor to the other hospitals or the clinics or physicians in the community. These actions certainly will not harm the other providers in the community. Instead, it will strengthen the safety net system and ensure the viability of that system into the future. Based on these facts, I encourage you to accept staff's recommendation and approve the amendments to the Kern County Hospital Authority and Kern Health Systems ordinances as proposed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bigler. Who'll be next?
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Supervisors Maggard and Perez. My name is Ken Keller. I'm the President and CEO of Bakersfield Memorial Hospital, and thank you for a few minutes this morning. I'd like to just give you a couple of elements to provide some augmentation to Chief Administrative Officer Alsop's information. The definition of a safety net hospital or safety net provider, as from the Institutes of Medicine, which is actually the triple aim that Mr. Alsop referenced up there, states that providers that organize and deliver a significant level of both healthcare and other health-related services to the uninsured, Medi-Cal in our world, and other vulnerable populations, as well as providers who, by mandate or mission, offer access to care regardless of a patient's ability to pay, and whose patient population includes a substantial share of uninsured, Medi-Cal, and other vulnerable populations. In our world in Kern County, Bakersfield Memorial, Mercy Hospital, Adventist Health, as well as Kern Medical Center, all meet this definition. Memorial alone averages about 4,600 Medi-Cal or uninsured patients through our emergency room on a monthly basis. Kern Medical averages about that same amount. Last year, Memorial alone had over 8,000 Medi-Cal patients that we saw in our hospital that were admitted and cared for. Kern Medical, similar amount. In addition to that, we had over $13 million of uncompensated or charity care, not counting the roughly $67 million that were provided in our community benefits program and outreach, education, support, and a number of other elements for the uninsured and the vulnerable populations. It is a part of our mission. We're not necessarily opposed to the proposed changes. Our major concern today is that this is the first time that we've heard about it, have had no conversation and no ability to provide some input or interaction. Our concern is that there's nothing that is stated in the current goals, aspirations, or the documents that formed both the hospital authority as well as the health authority. Kern Health Systems and Kern Medical Center today provide that ability of an integrated network. And Kern Health Systems, through its contractual relationships with other providers, through the collaborative effort with other providers, provides that IDN that's being deemed or decreed, if you would, in the proposed changes and in the red line. So the request that we have this morning is not necessarily to say, don't do this. The request that we have this morning is to ask a pause to give us time and have all the stakeholders involved in the conversation that provide a significant amount of care, a substantial amount of support to the vulnerable populations that we serve here within Kern County. That's from a global perspective. From a technical perspective, one thing I do have, and I'm nowhere near the expert that you guys are in this or the expert that Mr. Alsop and team is, but as I was looking in the summary that was provided and in the references that were provided, it references both red lines and clean copies of both versions of each of the ordinances. There's not a clean version of Ordinance 2.170, and the red line that's referenced as a change in Ordinance 2.94050F is not referenced in the summary opening document that's provided from Mr. Alsop. So on those two reasons, my ask is to consider pausing, continuing, and possibly simply stalling this for a little bit to give us time to get back together.
Mr. Keller, can you hang on a second? What you just said, it sounded like you were looking for a red line copy or a document that you didn't get.
In the summary document, in the proposal that's provided by Mr. Alsop, he references both a clean copy and a red line copy of both ordinances. There is not a clean version of the ordinance 2.170.
Well, okay, yeah, I want to get you that. Do you have that available to hand to him? Can you give that, can you?
Yes.
Give that up, okay. Yep. I want them to provide that to you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
You bet.
Thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you. Who'll be next?
Good morning. I'm Dr. Sabita Ipinapalli. My name is spelled as Sabita, S-A-B-I-T-H-A, Ipinapalli, E-P-P-A-N-A-P-A-L-L-Y. I am a nephrologist, which means I specialized in kidney diseases. I've been serving in this community since 2013. I've been a physician for Kern Health Systems for past 3 to 4 years. I received my nephrology training at the University of Yale, Connecticut, and I did my research also at Harvard too. It was amazed to see how care could be coordinated within an advanced system. Coordinated care in an integrated delivery system that focuses on helping patients to get the right care at the right time is also possible here too. I do not see why a person cannot get what they're supposed to get, the health care. Coordinated care in an integrated delivery system should happen as it is helpful for the patients to receive the right care. I've seen, being a value physician, there are so many good value physicians here who can provide very good care to the patients, but without having a delivery system, it is tough to reach to your patients to get them right care. I would strongly advise or ask the Board of Supervisors to approve the ordinance for the changes that you have in front of you today. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Doug Hayward. I'm the current Chief Executive Officer for Kern Health Systems. Chairman Couch, honorable members of the Board of Supervisors. The state of California, through Medi-Cal health plans like Kern Health Systems, is encouraging closer alignment with safety net providers like Kern Medical, where we have members and patients in common. Today, Kern Health Systems, through Kern Family Healthcare, has 27,000 enrollees who currently receive their health care from Kern Medical. As the state encourages more healthcare integration between health plans and local providers for patients served by both organizations, a closer working relationship would make sense. The concept is not new. The care integration arrangement is currently present in several healthcare service programs jointly operated by Kern Health Systems and Kern Medical. It also exists with other hospitals and doctors in our provider network. Our hope is to expand these jointly operated programs as the need arises. This will not impact our arrangements with Kern Health Systems' other contracted physicians, hospitals, and healthcare providers currently in our network. Members will continue to select their personal care physician from any participating primary care doctor currently in our network. All physicians will be able to refer their patients to any participating specialist in our network. And finally, all hospitals will remain available to all Kern Family Healthcare members for inpatient and outpatient services. Furthermore, changing the ordinance will not affect how Kern Health Systems or Kern Medical operates. For Kern Health Systems, this change will have no impact on Kern Health Systems' day-to-day operations other than where we develop new service programs or patient care arrangements with Kern Medical. Like jointly operated programs today, each organization carries out its responsibilities separately, but works collaboratively to ensure the desired outcome for the members and patients we have in common. From Kern Health System's perspective, we expect things to continue business as usual. Thank you. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. We may have some for you. Who will be next?
Charlotte Briggs, President and CEO of Adventist Health. I think as what was clearly stated from the very beginning, when we looked at the presentation and we saw the hospitals that already have an integrated system, Adventist Health was one of them in relationship with Kaiser Permanente. It's an example of being able to take a population and being able to address the needs of that population, as talked about with payer, physician, and hospital alignment. When I look at Kern County and I think of just our hospital alone, it's a little scary to go down this path. When I look at what's best for Kern County and what this can help drive in our quality, in the care that we give, and because we know that Kern County is a very sick population. We see that in data. We have to do something different. And for that reason, Adventist Health stand in support of this proposal.
Thank you, Ms. Briggs.
Good morning. Good morning, Chairman Couch. How are you, David? Mr. Maggard, Letitia, Perez. Ms. Perez, good to see you all. I can't tell you how much fun it is to be up here in front of you guys again. So I'm going to take a pragmatic approach. I only learned of this at 4:20 last evening. I have no time to have prepared remarks like everybody else who was teed up today. I didn't have any time to do that because literally it landed on my desk yesterday afternoon at 4:20. It was a secret pretty well kept. So what I'm going to do briefly is just kind of walk through this document, and I'm just going to take some highlights. So the first is the CAO's comments that end up in Mr. Alsop's signature, sincerely, et cetera. And then I'll talk briefly about the red line because I've only got this to go off. So fiscal impact, none, maybe not today. So I agree with everybody's remarks that have been made this morning. This is not about today. This is about what happens in the future, 3, 5 excessive years out, and it speaks very clearly to that in this document, and I'm going to try to put that out to you. We're talking about integrated safety, health net delivery. Yeah, we all do this. Any consultant could have written this. This is buzzwords in our industry. You know, we call it population health management today. It's kind of evolved to that. So we're all into this, as Ms. Briggs said. The authority was created in 1994. I was working at Memorial at that time. We were in favor of it. Then Managed Medi-Cal was set up. Kern Health Systems has been just extremely successful in taking care of this vulnerable population in this county. In fact, I would argue they're probably the most successful in the state. Along came the hospital authority, Kern Health Systems, the setting up the authority. I supported that entirely. Mr. Judd left us at Dignity Health, went to Kern Medical Center. We at Dignity Health supported the hospital authority very, very strongly and helped recruit some of the first members to it. It was needed. Kern Medical Center needed a turnaround. I advocated with all you guys that they need a board of governors like we have in the downtown, in the nonprofit sector, so we have a board working with our hospital administration and not just a board of supervisors. You guys are too busy, and you agreed with it at the time, so this authority was set up, and we certainly approve that and still do today. But as I look at this, I can't help but think, is this a merger or a takeover? And let me explain why. So, reading into the document further, then I go into the red line copy. And I'll get to the bottom line. So about X amount of pages in, there's under section 2.940.60B. Notwithstanding any other provision of the law, the members of the Board of Governors may simultaneously serve as members of the governing board of Kern Health Systems. So the two boards will merge, so that's a takeover. There's not separate boards anymore. A board to run Kern Health Systems and a board to run Kern Medical Center. We go to one. So is that good or bad? I mean, they built a nice case by not recruiting new members. Oh, we've got all these vacancies. You know, we can all see through that, right? Plenty of volunteers in this community to serve on these boards. So the key to me, looking out into the future, is the following. And that is, under a further ordinance down the line, it says the hospital authority shall have the power to appoint and employ or otherwise engage a chief executive officer and other necessary officers and employees, notwithstanding any other provision of law, that CEO of the hospital authority may simultaneously serve as the CEO of Kern Health Systems. There's the key to this whole document. It is a takeover. You're going to have one CEO running the hospital authority and running Kern Health Systems, and we strongly oppose that. It is a conflict of interest. Mr. Gleason is big on conflict of interest. We can remember that from the past times we've been up in front of this board. If that isn't a conflict of interest, there isn't such a thing. That is a conflict. You've got two organizations under one CEO with different purposes. I think it's very plain and simple, at least to me, and I'm not a lawyer, but I've been in this business, as you all know, a long, long time. So getting to the back, then to the red line version, it clearly, it speaks that again. It goes to it again, that the governing board may simultaneously serve same CEOs. So they've reiterated to get that piece into it, because that's the main purpose, in my opinion, of this change of this ordinance. And we strongly oppose one CEO for the two organizations. Mr. Hayward stood up here, very gracious. If I was Mr. Hayward, I would be thinking, I got to polish up my resume, because my job isn't going to be around much longer. Think about it. Anybody want to debate me on that? Let's do it. It's there. It's in black and white. So I will conclude by saying I hope the Board of Supervisors consider an opportunity for us to come together as a healthcare community and vet this opportunity to further enhance healthcare in our community for this vulnerable population, as which you heard, Dignity Health serves over half of them, and come together under this new law that we just heard about, this CalAIM. Never heard about it till last night, because I'm not in that sector. I'm not in the public sector. I serve on the board of directors and the executive committee of the California Hospital Association. I'm pretty well in tune with all this stuff, but this kind of came out of nowhere. We have no doctors here. Kern Medical has doctors here because they knew about all this and they had a chance to script their doctors. I have no doctors here because we didn't know about it till yesterday afternoon late. Doctors cannot change their procedures. They cannot cancel surgeries. They cannot cancel their office to come to a presentation like this. So is this a hostile takeover? I don't know. Maybe over time, not today, sure. They could stand up here and say, nothing's going to change. Patients' rights will not be changed. The patients can choose whoever they want to go to, whatever doctors they want to use today. But if you have a takeover by the Kern Medical Center folks to take over Kern Health Systems, that's not going to be the future. Yeah, they'll ride it out till this all blows away, but they'll take it over. And it's in the document. So, and is it unfair competition to the physician providers, again, who couldn't be here today? But in the future, it could very well be either you practice at Kern Medical Center or you cannot procedurally take care of these patients, because they're going to form a narrow network to drive the business to their hospital. That's what this is all about, in my opinion. If not, let's vet it as a community. Let's bring together the providers, doctors, hospitals, everybody come together in a coalition. You guys, the Board of Supervisors, can set it up, and then we will vet and talk this thing through, and not trying to run it through on a session on a, what's today, Tuesday morning in December, right before Christmas. And seriously, we just heard about it yesterday. And we have people that watch this stuff pretty good. Yes?
Hang on one second. I have two lights on. I want to make sure that they don't have a question for something that you just said. And it's Supervisor
Sure, I'll
Perez,
take questions.
Or CA, Mr. Alsop, did you want to get in? Did you want to respond to something or ask him a question about what he was?
No, I don't have any questions for Mr. Van Boning. I did want to respond to
All right,
some of the
well,
comments.
I just got a few statements left. So again, is this a blatant disregard of patient rights, of choice, a physician's opportunity to take care of these patients? I don't know, but it could be so gleaned from reading this document. It has to be vetted in a public forum. So I talked about so lastly, my colleague Bridge Bombay from the Bakersfield Heart Hospital, he could not be here this morning. He's chairman of the board of the Heart Hospital. Talked to him last night. He said, John, I got patients all day. I can't leave my office. But Bridge's message today for you all says it should be tabled. Let's have an in-person meeting to discuss further under the supervision of the board of directors. That's Dr. Bridge Bombay from the Bakersfield Heart Hospital. So you take Dignity Health and the Heart Hospital, we have about 50% of the patients we take care of in this community. Between Adventist Health and Kern Medical Center, there's the other 50% of the patients. So are we going to come together as a community and vet this very important opportunity to set healthcare direction for the future, or are we going to let this document stand on its own today? That's your call. Thank you. I'll take questions.
Thank you. Supervisor Perez.
Thank you, John, for your presentation. And I think you raised very good points that are reasonable and should be addressed. I really believe that. Why do you believe that if we proceed today with what appears to be a very good policy direction, why do you believe, or do you believe that your input, which is critical to the long-term healthcare community, solvency in this community, why do you feel that can't be had, or if that somehow will be thwarted?
Supervisor Perez, thank you for the question. As I said, we received this late yesterday afternoon. It has been vetted briefly by Dignity Health legal team. They think there's inherent challenges here. I didn't have time to put anything together to show up this morning down here at 8:30 to get ready for this. So I really can't answer that question other than I think it's too quick, too fast. I can only see what I see in this red line version and in the cover copy. And I just don't think it's been fairly vetted, I'll use that word again, studied by the community providers. This is one-sided, and the other side needs to be heard. You've got all these doctors that take care of these patients. They need an opportunity to weigh in here. We don't know. I mean, if it's true that status quo is going to remain the same, it's not in this document. It's only spoken words. Once control of that board is taken by one person, controls both boards, they will have the power to do whatever they want with this patient population, according to this document. Again, we haven't had our lawyers go through it, but their first glance at it that we emailed to them quickly last night said, whoa, can this county do this? And I said, well, they're going to try to do it tomorrow morning.
Thank you, John. Chairman, can I ask Russell Judd of Kern Medical to please come down? Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
John, I appreciate you. Russell, if you could come down, please, and maybe address some of the more obvious problems here. I think there's been a compelling presentation today that this looks like a good policy direction for Kern County. And I trust you. I've heard from Dr. Lopez. I trust your guys' perspective. And I've heard some concerns being raised that I think we deserve, that they deserve to be addressed. So some of the issues that require some real healthcare expertise that don't jump out to me right away are deficiencies. So if you could help address some of the obvious problems that have been addressed today and help give us some direction, that would be helpful.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Maggard, and Ms. Perez. Russell Judd, I'm the CEO of the Kern County Hospital Authority. Let me make just a general kind of big global statement first. The Kern County Hospital Authority is charged with the mandate to improve the overall health of the community. We're the safety net, the core safety net provider. Yes, there's other safety nets who stay above us, but when it comes to the end of the day, we have to be the one that catches everybody that falls through the bottom. Any given day, today we receive 12 to 15 transfers a week from the other hospitals. They don't have the ability or nor the desire because of payer source to care for the patient. You know, there's a big, broad definition of safety net, but we are the bottom net that has to capture everybody that falls through. We exist not to dominate anybody, not to be competitive, not to take patients away from any other provider. The board is very clear in their mission. We don't have a financial target that we have to hit. We're not trying to hit goals and objectives that elevate our financial status. We're here to care for people. And yes, we have to have money to do that, and we have goals and objectives that make sure we're financially viable. Our goal is to meet the county's needs of caring for the poor and the vulnerable in the most efficient manner possible so that that burden doesn't pull precious resources away from other county departments and all else that the county has to do. I can, again restate, we're not trying to be competitive here. This is not a takeover. This is not directing patients. This is a mechanism to make sure that the safety net is strong and is provided. A couple comments were made about CalAIM. That was released by the state of California at the end of October. It's been out and about and circulated. The state has made it very clear that they will be redirecting the safety net funds. We stay afloat because of supplemental payments that come through the 1115 waiver. As we put up intergovernmental transfers that come down, the state of California has made it very clear that they will be directing those patients to the local initiative, that health plan. Counties across the state are responding this way. Other counties are taking these very same actions. There's other Medi-Cal managed care plans that are in counties that don't have a traditional county hospital. They're trying to figure out, okay, now how do we manage these elements? This is a process to make sure that the most poor and vulnerable are cared for. The state of California is in a unique situation right now. The state of California and the current federal administration are not friends, to say the least. And so as this proposal comes out, this still has to be, go through the federal government and see what that acceptance or rejection will be. It has to be a strong, organized system to prepare for the significant changes that are coming to the Medi-Cal program in the state, as well as what will happen to the uninsured. There's still the big question, particularly in our community, is the undocumented. They're not covered by Medi-Cal. The majority of those patients are treated at Kern Medical in our clinics, and of course, when hospital care is needed. And that supplemental funding that even will provide care for them will flow through Kern Health Systems through this process. The one element about the CEO, that comment that one person will have control. Just remind the board that the CEO of the Kern County Hospital Authority reports to the Board of Supervisors. That is there in the ordinance. You have the responsibility to approve whoever the CEO is of the Kern County Hospital Authority. You have the right to evaluate, to give direction. And so the fear of a single individual lands right squarely. Your board is charged with making sure the care for the poor and the vulnerable is taken care of. And so you do that through formation of ordinances, two authorities, the Kern Health Systems and the Kern County Hospital Authority. And you continue to maintain that control over this individual, whoever that is, that will oversee these two entities. They follow the direction of the board. That is who appoints them. Ryan Alsop is the CAO, the representative from the board who is actively engaged in the day-to-day leadership of the county, will now sit on both of those boards if this ordinance goes through, so that proper direction from your board can be carried out and can be given. This is a process of bringing together the two county-based organizations that are charged with providing this care. I think the vision is clear. This is not, as has been said by many people, it's not redirecting patients. It's not in the future redirecting patients. This is even if Kern Medical desired to have all the patients, couldn't. There's just not the capacity. We still have the major problem in 2030. There's a good portion of Kern Medical that won't be in existence, and we're going to need the other providers in the community to care for the patients, to take the patients, as we no longer have the capacity to do so. There's been talk about, well, Kern Medical builds a tower, but no one's got $400 million to accomplish that task. So let me pot Supervisor Couch today.
I wanted you to elaborate on that point.
Yeah, so in 2030, now there's hopefully some legislation going through that may be delayed, but if not, the A, B, and C wing of Kern Medical cannot be used for patient care. We have hired the architect to come in, do the preliminary planning of what would it take to replace that, to do either a remodel of the current wings that are non-compliant or to build a new tower to handle that patients. It's $400 million. I don't know how and where that money comes from. People said, well, they take all Kern Health Systems money to build that tower. Kern Health Systems does very well. They don't have money like that. That can't be provided. And so this coordination and this direction, the need is going to be for the other providers. The other hospital care is going to have to be provided by the people in the community. As far as timing, I can't speak. We followed the process. Ryan did. It was published on the agenda as indicated. I will comment that this is the first reading of this ordinance. It must come back for a second reading to be approved by your board. In addition, on Thursday, there is a Kern Health Systems board meeting. On that agenda is this topic. It's a public forum. The other providers can come. We can have a discussion. They can express concerns or other feelings, questions that can be resolved, and then that could be brought back to your board during the second reading. So clearly, my recommendation is to approve this first reading. There is time to meet the needs. Others have questions if they need to be responded to. There is time for that to be done, and the second reading of this ordinance will be scheduled, and some of those questions, and if there's any other concerns, can be addressed at that time. So I can answer any questions or come back up.
Well, stay close. If there are others who would like to speak, we want to give you that opportunity. I want to ask a question of County Council. It's our policy to have a second reading at the next meeting, which would be on the 17th. But that's just a policy. We could extend that time period if we chose to a date certain into the future. With holiday schedules and people's doctors' schedules, a week might be a pretty short amount of time. So do we have that is that option available to us?
So, Chairman Couch, yes, the government code requires that it puts a restriction on when ordinances can be passed. Ordinances shall not be passed within 5 days of their introduction, nor at other times than a regular meeting or an adjourned regular meeting. So the restriction is that something cannot happen prior to 5 days. Our practice is at the next meeting, which would be 7 days, but there's nothing that precludes your board from moving it out beyond that 5 days or until the next meeting.
And for everyone's information, our next meeting is the 17th. That's our last meeting of 2019. Our first regular meeting is on January 7th.
That's correct. And in January, you meet on the 7th, the 14th, and the 28th.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Alsop. Well, he punched in. I'm gonna go there in a second. Do you want to make a comment before we go to the public?
Yeah, if you don't mind, Mr. Chair, members of the board, I just wanted to respond to some of the comments by Mr. Van Boning, just for clarity. this is, this is not a, it seemed that the principal concern from Mr. Van Boning was this is a takeover, and this is not. The two boards, we are not taking a board and replacing another board. The ordinance change that we're asking your board to do is there are 16 board positions on the Kern Health Systems board. They currently have 6 vacancies. They have 10 people sitting there. We're asking your board to simply remove the term limits for those 10 currently serving people on the Kern Health Systems board. They will be maintained and they're there. We're asking your board to fill those 6 vacancies with the Hospital Authority Board. You would also add my position to the Kern Health Systems Board. So you would be making 6 appointments, you're adding my position, and you are maintaining the 10 current serving members, who most of whom are termed out already, frankly. You'd be maintaining those folks there. So you're filling the board. Those boards would operate separately. There is a Kern Health Systems Board, and there is a Hospital Authority Board under these changes. The CEO, the point about the Kern Health System CEO should be preparing his resume. This does nothing to remove him. The language in the ordinance actually it actually applies to Russell as well. So the same could be said about Mr. Judd, who should be preparing his resume too. The same exact provision applies. This proposed change gives your board the ability in a couple of years, and I believe that is when the CEO of Kern Health Systems plans to leave, to either maintain 2 separate CEOs or have one CEO oversee both entities. Gives your board the option. Currently, you do not have the option to do that. So this is simply allowing you to, it gives you a little bit of diversification of choice. Providers are maintained. I want to read you a couple of provisions in the proposed changes. It says foster in the construction and development of the integrated delivery system. We specifically have a provision in here that says foster and maintain the clinical relationships between Medi-Cal, the medically indigent, and uninsured patients and their healthcare providers. Number 4 in that same section specifically states, recognize, accommodate, and support those programs and activities of providers that have been regularly and repeatedly successful in addressing the medical and social needs of the Medi-Cal indigent and uninsured individuals. Anyway, I hope that is helpful for clarity.
What page is what you just read from on?
It's the last page of the redlined version.
Okay. Are there others who would like to make a statement or comment on this item today? Nobody? Okay. We'll return to the board for questions and comments and possible action. Supervisor Maggard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the members who've come today from the public to share with us your concerns. It's not the first time we've had compelling arguments on one side and compelling arguments on another side, but it's interesting here that Kern Health Systems appears to be In favor of this? Mr. Hayward, do I misunderstand your position? Are you in favor of this?
We certainly believe that in light of the desire to want to integrate the care relative to the members that we have in common, our members and their patients, under an arrangement which would serve the best interest of the patients, both in terms of access and assurances of quality and consistency with regard to those patients and to our members. We concur with this arrangement, the way the ordinance is set up, yes.
That means a yes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Charlotte Briggs from Adventist Health was a clear yes, I believe. You don't need to come back up to reiterate that unless I'm misstating your position. Forgive me if I am. But I think she was a clear yes. Mr. Van Boning, who I have, and Mr. Keller, who I have great respect for, have a different opinion. So let's vet that here for a few minutes. What is the concern as expressed by Mr. Van Boning was basically, it isn't today, it's 3 to 5 years from now, there might be a change that would, at that point, change the relationship between patients and their providers. So walk me through what there is about this wording that gives us complete assurance that that is not the intention, nor will it be the result.
Chairman Couch, Supervisor Maggard, I believe what I heard from Mr. Van Boning were his concerns about this being a takeover, and specifically one CEO. I'm assuming he meant he was referring to Mr. Judd ultimately running everything at some point, and that there was going to be, we were going from 2 boards to 1. We're not going from 2 boards to 1. This change that we have before you does not change the CEO at Kern Health Systems, and it does not change the CEO at the hospital authority. It allows your board at some point in the future, which goes to the point in the future comment by Mr. Van Boning, where your board is to decide on a new leader ultimately, along with obviously with the sitting boards that are directly overseeing things, who the CEO or CEOs will be. That is not a decision you're making now. That's, I believe, a couple years away at least, and I think we could have a discussion about that then.
Remind us of the process. The Board of Governors chooses, or the Board of Kern Health Systems chooses a CEO, and where do we fit into that?
Yeah, you do. I'm trying to remember the last change we had to the hospital authority. Here. I'm going to let Elsa answer that specific question.
I'm not cutting you off. Curious about that.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I think council would be more appropriate to answer that question, but my understanding is that your board has no direct selection of the CEO of the Kern Health System. Your board appoints the hospital authority CEO.
Okay.
So if it were to be the case that at some point in the future, the Board of Kern Health Systems, and let me make sure I understand this correctly, which will consist, there are 10 sitting members on the Kern Health Systems Board. Do all 10 of those remain? Do any of those not remain?
This does nothing other than remove the term limits provision that's in the current ordinance. And I believe, how many are termed out of the 10? We had it on a slide. We have...
A total of 8 will or have.
Yeah, they will or have 8.
Mm-hmm.
8 what?
Termed out.
So there are only 2 that are not termed out? Is that what you're telling me, out of their 10 members?
Yes.
So after this change occurs, how many board members will there be on the Kern Health Systems Board?
16.
16. And that will be comprised of?
And me, sorry, 17.
17, that's
keep
what I thought
forgetting.
was 17. So it will be the 6 members of our Kern Health Authority Board, plus you, plus 10 seats that, some of which are currently filled and some of which are not, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So the majority of the board of Kern Health Systems will still be members who are not a member of the Kern Health Authority or the county, in the employ of the County of Kern.
That's correct. There'll be the 10 members that are currently sitting there.
And if the point were to come in the future where a decision were to be made that the chairman of the CEO of Kern Health Systems and the CEO of the Kern Health Authority were to become one person, what would that process be, and how would that be? How would the public be involved in that, in the becoming aware of and having an opportunity to comment on that decision?
I don't know, other than to say, you know, given today's comments, I'm sure it will be a robust conversation.
Probably would be, yeah.
And
But
decision by your board.
is the participation of the public in that process 100% assured and guaranteed?
Public, I'm sorry, Supervisor.
With the ability of the public to have a voice in that process before that decision is made, is there any doubt as to whether or not the public would have an ability to be able to comment on a decision like that were to be made years down the road?
I believe if that were the wish of your board, then we can certainly do that.
Ms. Razan, do you have a comment about whether or not the public's ability to comment about that decision is assured as we speak today?
Supervisor Maggard, that through the chair, I believe the CEO of Kern Health Systems would be appointed by the Kern Health System Board, and how they would handle the recruitment, the hiring is
Kern Health,
battered by them.
let me back up, maybe I can make this easier. Is Kern Health Systems a public entity?
They are.
Are they governed by the Brown Act?
They are.
Will the Brown Act assure that the public will have a voice at an agendized meeting for them to have an opportunity to speak as to whether or not that board, before they decide to make a change like this, wouldn't the public be assured to have an opportunity to be able to have a voice at that meeting?
That is correct, with the proviso that certain personnel matters can be handled in closed session, but it can be an agendized item and discussed, debated, considered in open session.
Do you know enough about Kern Health Systems' process that this decision, could this decision be made behind closed doors without any input from the public?
So my office does represent the Kern Health System. However, we have an ethical wall built up, and I do not provide legal advice to the Kern Health Systems. Mr. Kalsa does, and he is out of the office taking care of some medical issues today.
So between now and when this matter comes back to us, it's very important, I think, that we have a complete understanding, and the public has a complete understanding about what opportunities the public would have to have a voice in that process. Mr. Alsop, did you want to say something?
Yes, sir, Supervisor Maggard. I believe the contract approval for the current CEO for Kern Health Systems is on the open agenda for consideration on Thursday.
Thursday, as in 2 days from now?
Yeah, but not to say that that's, you know, everybody show up. It's just to make the point that this is, these are things that are handled in open session,
You know,
as well as closed session.
I've discovered these things called emojis on my phone, and there's this one where this guy is putting his hand to his forehead and shaking his head. And I just saw Mr. Hayward do that exact thing sitting there in the front row. So I don't want to make life more difficult for him. But if the public wants to have a voice, there is a provision in that process just like this. But I think that would be an important thing for us to make sure is crystal clear to all interested parties as we move forward through this process. So I have in my hands the language that says, I'm quoting a portion of a sentence that's from the proposed ordinance, and it says that this will foster and maintain the clinical relationships between, and it says Medi-Cal, medically indigent, and uninsured patients, and their healthcare providers. So I'm not trying to truncate the line, but the essential words in that line say that this will foster and maintain the clinical relationships between patients and their healthcare providers. I take that to mean that we are not going to disrupt the relationship between a patient and their provider, which includes their hospital. Am I misunderstanding something there?
You are not.
So what language, what ambiguity, do you see any ambiguity in that?
No, sir, we don't.
Mr. Van Boney, would you mind coming forward and telling me what ambiguity do you see in that?
Well, again, I'm not a scholar on this matter. Haven't had that chance to study it, but I think the devil's in the detail. And as everybody's reiterating, yeah, everything's going to be fine and all the providers today and maybe for a few years. But the danger here is you will, if this language goes through, you will end up with one CEO for the authority and Kern Health Systems. The authority's job is to drive business into Kern Medical Center, which is conflicted with Kern Health Systems' job, which is to provide the best care available for their patients with the best providers at the most reasonable cost. We all negotiate these rates. They're not high, trust me. So I think there's an inherent conflict there with having one CEO, and we can make light of poor Doug's position where he is in life. But he cannot be happy with this. I mean, obviously somebody's told him what he has to say today, in my opinion. I don't know that for a fact, but that's my opinion. I mean, just, again, I'm very pragmatic. I've been doing this a long time.
So is there any ambiguity?
I can read the tea leaves out into the future, and they don't look good for anybody but the CEO and the Kern Hospital Authority, not for Kern Health Systems and not for the providers across the board taking care of these patients in Bakersfield and Kern County. That's my opinion.
Okay, thank you. If Mr. Hayward is under compulsion to speak anything other than what he believes the truth to be, Mr. Hayward should stand up and tell us that. And I'm not trying to put him on the spot, but other people are speaking for you, and I have asked you to give us clearly what your position is, and I think you've done that. So I'm going to take you at your word unless you tell me there's some reason I should not. So, because I completely respect your word about that. So, is there in the interim between now and whenever this is going to become enacted, the issue of how compelling these words are that this shall maintain the clinical relationships between patients and their healthcare providers. That wording is important, and we are giving assurances to the public, many patients in our community, that they're not going to have to change their relationship. So how we make that crystal clear to the public is important, I think.
Chairman Couch, just one other comment I needed to make. I forgot. I didn't get to it. I get too compassionate about patients and their care. Again, we're not asking for this ordinance to be killed and go away today. We're asking for it to be tabled and further studied. And at least well out into January, at your last meeting in January, if you're compelled to pass it today, then at least give us a month plus to study it and to come together as a community. I would hope you would table it today so we can bring it back for another session and then a final session in front of the board. That would be our hope and our ask.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
So let's speak for a moment now about because the issue about whether or not we're going to arbitrarily change someone's relationship with their provider, I think is clear. But if there's any ambiguity to that, I hope there's an opportunity for us to have some discussion about that. Next, about the conflict of interest. Ms. Rezan, tell me about whether or not there is a conflict of interest and how that is dealt with.
Supervisor Maggard, through the chair, our research indicates that there is not a conflict. I do not have that with me. I can get that. We've looked into it. The goals are the same of providing care, creating an integrated delivery system, And from a legal perspective, we've found nothing that would say that there is a conflict of interest when having one CEO. There's two separate boards, but one CEO is not a conflict.
Do opinions vary? Apparently they do.
Yes, they vary.
So when opinions vary, I like to hear the compelling arguments as to why one side is correct and the compelling argument as to why the other side is correct. So when would you be prepared to give us those arguments so we can weigh which one we think is correct?
I'd be prepared to do that at your next board meeting or whenever it is that you bring this back.
Okay, thank you. Why are we compelled to do this now or sooner than later?
First and foremost, the most acute issue here is we have a term limit problem in a board that essentially, legally, a 16-member board will have 2 members serving on it unless you act. Secondly, this is the direction that the state of California is going in with regard to the funding that it distributes.
That's Cal-AIM, correct?
Right.
So walk us through Cal-AIM, if you can, expeditiously.
I can't walk you through Cal-AIM, Supervisor.
So
I believe
who can do
that's
that?
probably best done by either of the CEOs or, you know what, Elsa's whispering that she's going to give it an attempt. So we'll give her an attempt.
Maybe
and then-
Mr. Judd and Mr. Hayward should be waiting in the wings if her explanations are not sufficient.
Well, I'm going to quote actually Kern Health System presentation that they have on their own board agenda on Thursday. So there are many initiatives between the state of California is taking. One of them is with managed care plans, and what they're trying to do is population health management. I think this is going to be very important because what the state is seeking for managed cares to do is take a whole person approach to care of addressing the clinical and non-clinical needs of the high-need medical beneficiaries. What that means that Kern Health System is not just going to be a payer. They're going to be responsible for the non-clinical needs, finding out, providing the care to those individuals that have non-clinical needs. So it's not just about healthcare. Now the state is making the managed care step into a social program. One of the things that the state is providing is they're going to replace the current whole person care program and the health homes program. The whole person care program is one of the programs that Kern Medical Center manages under the existing waivers. So they have the knowledge and experience to go in this direction. There's other provisions that apply to just healthcare providers, but that's the main one that is going to gear toward the health managed care and the healthcare providers combined.
And is there something about that is compelling us to move sooner than later to make these changes?
The state of California is making changes right now. There are stakeholder groups going on. There's conference calls. We have to be at the table with the state in a integrated approach to make sure that Kern County is protected when the state is making these decisions. So if we do not have that integrated approach from the managed care, from the county itself, and from the healthcare provider, we're going to find ourselves having to implement something that we have no input into. So the discussion is happening right now. We are going to have a new waiver beginning in 2021. So we're a little bit behind, to be honest with you, not being at the table at the state, being part of the conversations.
Thank you. Are there any elements that Mr. Judd or Mr. Hayward want to add to that about why there's a compelling case to be made that we should move forward sooner than later? If not, then I'll ask my next question.
With any organization, if you want to change behaviors, if you want to realign, you just change the money flow. So now about 30%, about $150 million of the dollars that keeps Kern Medical open comes from the waiver through IGTs, the Intergovernmental Transfers, very complicated about California not putting up its share of cost and the drawdown of money from the federal government. The plan that's been outlined with Cal-AIM is that as the new waiver gets outlined, this will be the goal, will be that the public entity of Kern Medical will ship $30 million, as an example, in one of our intergovernmental transfers to the state of California. They use those to draw down the federal share, but the $60 million that comes down will now go to Kern Health Systems for them to direct the provision of care and how that flows. And so just the very livelihood of how money flows through the state wants that changed. And how do you change organizations and process? You change the flow of money. And the state's made it very clear that they're going to change that flow of money.
Okay, I'm happy to have...
quickly, not to challenge my
Mr.
classmate.
Mr. Van Boning, I'll let the chairman
I'm sorry.
call on you, okay? So
Oh,
I want you to
sorry.
have a seat there for a second.
You asked the question.
Yeah.
I'll be ready to respond to that, Chairman
Okay.
Couch, when you're like.
So I don't know, this is obviously a very dynamic, complicated thing, but I know this, that a number of years ago, I remember sitting in a restaurant and having a conversation with Mr. Van Boning, and he was pleading with me not to allow Kern Medical Center to close, because I was of the mind that if it didn't make money, it should close. And he is the person that compelled me to reach the conclusion that if it were to fail, if I were to close it, that it would cause every other hospital in Kern County to fail. I remember distinctly that conversation. That set me on a course to find a way to keep the hospital open. And if it could not succeed financially, I could not justify what then appeared to be the inevitable consequence would be that it would gut every other program that we do in the county, and we would spend all of that money on the hospital. Thank God in heaven that the changes were made, that the hospital changed, and it has become more successful. Integrating the medical delivery system is a model that Dignity follows, that Adventists follow, that Kaiser follows. It is the model that appears to be the best prospect for making the delivery of medical care successful. I don't see why the county wouldn't also look at integrating its delivery system. So we're going to look at that, because if we don't do that, if we don't stay competitive, the eventual consequence is the same conversation I had a dozen years ago, which was that if that hospital does not stay successful, it will gut every other thing that the county does as we pour all the rest of our money into it. It must be successful. So I'm comfortable going forward with this process. I don't believe that it takes it over. That we're not putting in place a majority of of directors that will dominate and take over this board. I don't believe that it is a bad thing, and I think the fully integrated system is a good thing. So I'm comfortable moving forward, but I want the opportunity for us to assure good people that represent lots and lots of patients in our community that we are not going to steal their patient relationship from them or from the provider. So as we move forward in the next few weeks, and if it means it needs to stretch out the time before we have our next meeting about this, I'm fine stretching out that time. But I think we can do two things at once, and one is we cannot stall the changes that I think are necessary, and we can provide an opportunity to vet and get the assurance to people that they need, that this is not stealing something from them. And I'm anxious to hear my colleagues' thoughts on how we can accomplish both of those.
Thank you. Supervisor Perez, do you want me to allow Mr. Van Boning to respond before you start? Okay, Mr. Van Boning.
Well, again, just a quick point on Mr. Judd's statements. That's his opinion of the current legislation and activities done at the state. I think we should have an opportunity to study that and fact check it. I don't think it's fair to take one person's analysis of legislation and changes going on in Sacramento as the gospel here today and make this decision, a very difficult, tough decision that's going to affect the future of healthcare drastically in this community for the patient population being served, to take it without, the buzzword today is fact check or get an opinion of what's really going on with Cal. California, state of California in this matter. That's just a thought I had, and I thought I should share that with you.
Thank you. Supervisor Perez.
Thank you. Can I ask Charlotte Briggs to come down and answer a specific question? I want to state for the record, I have not spoken to Charlotte, I don't think ever before. We may have said hi at an event. I've not spoken to any of your agents or either of my colleagues. I just want to be clear that the information that I've received comes from our staff. My colleagues have made no attempt to talk to me, so I am genuinely trying to vet this issue because I think it's appropriate and so important to be fair in the process that folks don't feel as though they're being sieged upon. That's important to me. So I hear that, I hear it consistently, so I think it needs to be addressed. And I'd like to know from you, who's an actual expert, unlike myself, why are you confident moving forward? And how do you feel about the process of input moving forward? How do you feel that your interests, which are not aligned necessarily with the interests of Kern County, and that's okay, we're different entities, but how do you feel that do you feel your interests will be protected and that you'll have a place at the table? I mean, what is your sense about that? And please just be honest, because I want to work through it with you. So it's just too big, and you can only imagine the misery of the three of us right now. So if you would please enlighten me, I'd appreciate it.
So I've been in healthcare many, many years. I say that I started in the late 1800s, and not quite that long. But as we look at the progression of healthcare, and I think that this is a really key element of it, there's been multiple areas, or multiple times when we've been scared about what's coming down from the future, what the government is pushing down to us. And we see changes happening now. We are on a faster pace of change than we've ever been before. As we look at the integrated approach to healthcare, I do not know how we move forward without integration. I think this is very clear in what's happened in Kern County. Dignity has some integration in healthcare. Adventist Health does too. And as I look at really, how are we going to take care of the patients in Kern County in the future as we move forward in this? All kinds of numbers have been pushed out. I think all kinds of scare tactics have been said. For me, when I look at my community of Kern County, and it's a community that I choose to live within, it's a community of which I choose to be president and CEO of a hospital. And I love my other hospitals, my colleagues in the room and outside the room. And I look at where future of healthcare is going. I once again do not understand how we can choose to be integrated and say to another group, you may not be integrated. I get the fact of saying that I'd like to have more time to look at this. I understand that. I think at some point, with the oversight of the county and the board on the healthcare entity, there's got to be checks and balances as you walk through this. And at some point, I have to say, I have to believe those checks and balances that are there to work will work. So for me, that's why, as I say, as Adventist Health, is this a little scary to me? Absolutely, it's a little scary to me. But if I was in those same shoes, and I've been there in the past, I would want to be integrated. And integration, when you just think about it, it's hospital, payer, and physician. It doesn't have to be exclusive. It's those three components together, working for the best of our community.
Thank you very much. Well, Chairman, excuse me, I am certainly interested in providing the kind of processes that are objectively fair, that give the appearance of fairness, and that to the best of our ability as ultimately self-interested players at the end of the day, that we are being as fair as is humanly possible. That is important to me. It's important to me that we do that consistently from this body. And I am hearing from the healthcare professionals that this is rather complicated. I have tremendous sympathy for members of the private sector that have to constantly contend with a changing government structure and ideology, that to me sounds miserable and not something I'd ever want to do, frankly. But it appears to me as though we need to move on this matter. And it appears to me that folks in the private sector need to feel confident also about the process. And so I appreciate your suggestion that you made, Chairman, that we provide some of that time. But I am certainly interested in not being behind. I had not heard that before today. That concerns me. And I'd like to move the ball in a way that puts us and keeps us on the cutting edge, but is legitimately interested in addressing what I think are real concerns. So that's where I am. And I'd like to hear from you too.
Okay. I asked earlier, and Supervisor Maggard just spoke about the line which is in the bottom of the red line version, which says to foster and maintain the clinical relationships between medically indigent, and uninsured patients and their healthcare providers. Actually, before that, there's 4 bullets, that's one of them. It says, the health authority shall, semicolon. Dumb question. We have a hospital authority, and we have Kern Health Systems. Who exactly is the health authority? Both of them combined? What is that?
The hospital authority was formed as part of your board's decision to transfer Kern Medical Center from the county hospital to become a hospital authority. It's a statutorily created entity. So as part of the hospital authority, Kern Medical, the hospital, is a part of the hospital authority, but the hospital authority is a statutorily created entity.
I get that, but this says health authority.
Oh, health authority.
It's health versus hospital. That's what I'm asking about.
I'm sorry, that's Kern Health System.
Okay.
Sorry.
So Kern Health Systems shall foster and maintain the clinical relationships, et cetera. I think Dignity, obviously, two of the largest hospitals in the city, and isn't comfortable with this. So I'm interested in moving in a way that we can move forward today. And that's why I asked you earlier about our process, which is typically to bring back the second reading of an ordinance at our next meeting, whenever that is, at least within a week. So I'm interested in moving forward, but providing an opportunity for Mr. Judd, Mr. Alsop, and I recognize there were other doctors and maybe just other interested parties that weren't able to be here today as well, to have input. So I'd like to move on this today, but provide for the second reading to come back at a date certain, sometime in January. I'm assuming, my guess is it's either the 14th or the 28th. I don't think we should bring it back on the 7th. That's just a personal opinion because of holiday schedules or vacation schedules. So what's the staff, or do any of the folks here that have an interest in that have a opinion on which is preferable to coming back, either the 14th or the 28th?
We're happy to bring it back on the 14th, Supervisor.
Does that provide enough, does anyone else here think that provides you enough time to meet as many times as you think you need to?
No, we would object to that. We would prefer the 28th because of the long holiday, 2 weeks when people are off and not working over Christmas and New Year's.
Okay, the
Not
record,
enough time to prepare.
record can reflect that Mr. Van Boning preferred the 28th. Secondly, what if there are, and this is a hard question for you to answer, but what if there are changes that are recommended from those meetings? At what point do we have to have a first reading and a second reading, or have to essentially start over? Is that just a judgment call based on what you see?
Chairman Couch, if there are changes other than, if it is altered in any meaningful way, it would need to start over. Generally, typographical errors, grammatical corrections don't require starting over, but any alterations that would meaningfully change the proposed ordinances would need to start over.
What I'm thinking about is if there was language added that made Dignity, for example, feel more comfortable that what they fear was not going to happen, which I think was an attempt in the ordinance. You've already attempted to do that. Maybe they want to strengthen that or bolster that. If that was just strengthened or bolstered, do you feel that's something that would need to start? Is that a material change, or is that just a strengthening of an existing element?
Mr. Chairman, may I insert a comment in there?
Sure.
If it doesn't change the intent of the language, if it merely amplifies or clarifies the intent, which is not to disrupt the patient-provider relationship, how is that a material change?
I don't know that that would be a material change.
Okay. It is encouraging. First encouraging thing we've heard today. Thank you. So that's what I would like to, that's the direction I would like to see us go. And
Chairman, I'll make that motion.
we need a date certain, and we haven't, I appreciate that. We haven't decided on the date. Mr. Alsop suggested the 14th. Mr. Van Boning suggested the 28th.
I'm happy to do it on the 28th, Mr. Van Boning. Let's do it on the 28th.
I'll make the motion, and I have the sincerest desire, Mr. Van Boning, to address your issues. I think they're authentic. I heard from Ms. Briggs that she's a little scared too, and I appreciate that honesty, and I want to do this fair and right. I'm compelled by what I've heard from the staff, and the care of poor people is very important to me, as I'm sure you know. So let's please work together on this. I want to be alongside you to get this right, and that you think that you're getting a fair treatment from this board as well. That's important to me. I hope you know that.
So the motion is on the staff's recommendation, but it is also including to bring it back for a second reading on January the 28th. And in the meantime, direction to staff to meet with any and all interested parties on this particular ordinance.
I will be happy to second that, but I want to introduce into our discussion, there are some meetings that will occur not before the Board of Supervisors, but meetings that will have some effect on this, and isn't one of those that you alluded to earlier, that Kern Health Systems Board meeting is next on Thursday, December the 12th, and I believe the Kern Hospital Authority next meeting is tomorrow, the 11th. So those that are interested might want to show up at those meetings just to have an ear towards the discussion that's had and to voice your concerns as well. I want it to be as robust an opportunity between now and January 28th as possible for people to mitigate their concerns and fears. But I'm happy to second the motion.
So we have a motion and a second. Does there need to be any more public comment on the motion, because it's a little different than bringing it back in 1 week?
30 seconds.
I wondered where you'd been all
I'd like
day.
to make a 30-second comment.
Okay.
Michael Turnipseed, representing Kern Tax. You've changed ordinances before, and as this process goes forward and the way healthcare is changing, you'll probably be back in 5 years changing the whole system again, because the system's changed. We live in a world of disruption, and you have to be nimble. And I understand why everybody wants to be heard. That's good. But we're moving forward, and let's hopefully understand that nothing is permanent. And your board appoints all the directors to both Kern Health Systems and the authority. So ultimately, it falls back in your lap. Congratulations.
Thank you for that.
Thanks.
We have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes.
The motion is approved. 3 ayes, 2 absent.
Okay. Thank you all very much for being here today and for your input. Thank you. And please continue your input. The next item is item 26. It is a response to a November 5th, 2019 board referral regarding potential actions to address unstable I'm sorry. Did you want me to go to item 37 before we do that? Okay. I got the consent agenda right, but I got this wrong. I'm going to exercise the chairman's prerogative, and I'm going to hear item 37 before item 26. It's 37 is under the fire department, and it's a report on the public safety power shutoff, otherwise known as PSPS, responses. Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman Couch, members of the board, Dean Bowler, Chief Deputy, here on behalf of Fire Chief David Witt today to give you an update on public safety power shutoffs in our communities. During the last couple of months, many of our citizens have endured PSPS events, sometimes without power for several days. There's been some frustration and anger. It's important to note that although public safety is generally thought of as local government emergency services, we as local government agencies, including your board, have had no say in the decision to de-energize power lines in our communities. We're grateful and encouraged that your board has brought all the resources of the county to bear to address this problem with the governor's office and the Public Utilities Commission. As the Office of Emergency Services, our primary objectives during these events have been protecting the lives of our medically fragile citizens who depend on uninterrupted power supply for medical devices, coordinating with local communities to ensure that critical infrastructure like domestic water, wastewater treatment, and communication systems remained in operation, and then coordinating an accurate flow of information to our citizens. During these events, we have activated our Emergency Operations Center, and we have prepared for an increase in emergency medical service requests, the possibility of sheltering, and providing information to our citizens and coordinating the request for resources through the Governor's Office of Emergency Services and local power providers. Going forward, we have three bright spots to report today. First, recent storms and the amount of rainfall that we have received should free us from the threat of PSPS events for a few months. Currently, Southern California Edison is actively working in the Tehachapi, Bear Valley, and Stallion Springs area to upgrade their equipment as part of their wildfire mitigation plan. When complete, we hope this greatly reduces the need for future PSPS events. And lastly, on October 25th, California OES awarded a little over $586,000 to Kern County for fiscal year 19 PSPS resiliency allocation. And this didn't come in the normal course of events where you know a grant's available, you apply for it, you're awarded. The money just came. So that was awesome, but we don't know if this is annual funding or if this is a one-time allocation. The performance period is 2 years, means that we have until November 2022 to allocate and expend the funds. The county is required to work collaboratively with cities on expenditures of these funds. Kern has opted to expand the process to on an operational area basis to allow participation from community service districts that provide essential services like domestic water, law enforcement, in those. On December 6th, the Kern Office of Emergency Services released the application forms to county departments, including fire, sheriff, general services, public works, public health, and also the cities and selected community service districts for their opportunity to submit proposed projects for the PSPS resiliency funds. A planning meeting to discuss projects is scheduled for January 16th. And proposed PSPS resiliency spending plan will be brought to your board for review and approval. As of today, county staff will be participating in a conference call with the Public Utilities Commission and will meet with PG&E representatives tomorrow face-to-face to discuss local issues of concern regarding PSPS activations and the impact to local governments and constituents. This is the end of our report. Quite welcome.
Excuse me. Is there anyone here who would like to make a comment on that item? Okay. Recommended action is to approve, but I think receive and file is the appropriate action.
So moved.
Second.
Please cast your votes.
The motion is approved. All ayes.
It takes us back to item 26, which is a response to a November 5th, 2019 board referral regarding potential actions to address unstable electric service impacts in Kern County by PG and Pacific Gas and Electric bankruptcy and reorganization, and proposed letter to Governor Gavin Newsom requesting Kern County input in policy alternatives to ensure reliable energy service to our community. Mr. Alsop.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Mr. Christensen from my office will be handling this item.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, on November 5th, representatives from Kern Taxpayers Association made a presentation to the Board of Supervisors detailing the ongoing threats that the power rates and actions of Pacific Gas and Electric Company and the California Public Utilities Commission, or CPUC, present to the Kern County economy and safety of its residents, and requesting that Kern County engage and join with the 8 counties of the Southern San Joaquin Valley Air District as a coalition to advocate for their ratepayers and push for separation of rate-making obligations along rational climate regions. Supervisor Scrivener made the referral to have staff bring back recommendations to your board related to the Kern tax presentation. This report is in response to the November 5th referral. PG&E is currently in bankruptcy proceedings and has initiated a program of turning off electrical service for large areas of the grid in anticipation of high winds and wildfire threats, as you are well aware. PG&E provides power to the areas of Kern County, while Southern California Edison provides power primarily in the desert and the mountain areas. Cities and counties, along with Governor Newsom, have expressed outrage at the inefficient and inconsistent actions of PG&E, which is an investor-owned utility that is regulated by the CPUC for power rates and the building of transmission lines. However, neither PG&E nor the CPUC have been accountable to your board or the public. And reliable and affordable power is critical to our economic growth, attracting businesses and providing livable communities. The urgency of talks surrounding the future of PG&E requires your board send a clear message now in order to have an impact on the results of reorganization and the rate-setting processes. Staff recommends your board explore, in conjunction with other interested cities and counties, strategies that will protect Kern County citizens and its economy from rate-setting and policies that could be damaging to residents and the local economy. The attached letter to Governor Newsom would clearly send a message that the concept of PG&E coming out of bankruptcy with Kern County bearing the cost of far distant fires and retrofit of transmission lines is unacceptable. In conclusion, let me summarize 2 actions that staff is pursuing and 1 recommended action of the board in response to the challenges brought on by PG&E, the CPUC, and the state legislature. Number 1, the first staff action was to establish an advisory panel on the PG&E reorganization and bankruptcy to advise the Board of Supervisors on policy, advocacy, and actions necessary in representing the interests of Kern County electric utility ratepayers in the decisions and actions of the state legislature, the Office of the Governor, and the CPUC. The 3-member advisory panel consists of staff from the County Administrative Office, the Planning and Natural Resources Department, and the Kern County Taxpayers Association. We have already engaged the Kern Taxpayers Association, and they have agreed to participate in that. Secondly, staff is prepared to immediately engage with and form a coalition of 8 southern San Joaquin Valley counties to unify behind a common set of priorities and objectives related to actions and decisions of the governor, the legislature, and the CPUC related to potential bankruptcy, dissolution, or state government takeover of PG&E. This action is being aided by our state lobbyist who represents many of the southern San Joaquin Valley counties. And lastly, staff recommends the following single action item. Immediately send the attached letter to the governor, signed by all 5 supervisors, outlining Kern County's concerns with the PUC and PG&E and the need to explore separation of rate-making obligations along rational climate regions. Therefore, it's recommended that your board receive and file this report and authorize all board members to sign the letter to the governor. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Christensen. Is there anyone here that would like to comment? Mr. Turnipseed?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Mike Turnipseed representing the Kern County Taxpayers Association. I want to thank Mr. Christensen for a very nice letter there. Our point is this. I know the mayor of San Jose, there's 100 different plans out there. None of them really address the fundamental problem, which was mentioned, is over the last 25 years, the completely, I almost call them draconian actions of the state legislature and the CPUC have really made it impossible for PG&E to function in a business-like manner. Their budget right now today, PG&E has submitted a budget to the CPUC, and they're in phase 1 of their general rate case. The PUC will tell PG&E how to spend its money. And over the last 15 years, there are several instances where repairs and maintenance money PUC did not approve, instead taking that money to buy relatively expensive green energy to meet the state mandate for additional green energy. So you can't really find the whole story anywhere. There's so many bits, pieces. The main thing is the insanity has to stop somewhere, somehow. Just like Zach talked about earlier, what's going on with oil. This started 25 years ago when the state decided to deregulate the energy business. So thank you for stepping up. Thank you for sending the letter to the governor. But be assured, a state takeover is not the answer. A nonprofit, wholly owned ratepayer is not the answer, because this money and the base and the power will still be in Silicon Valley, and we'll still be out here with tiered rates and time of use, paying the highest per customer bills in the system. And we are some of the lowest income in the system. That has to be the gist of this conversation, because as mentioned in the letter, I think people are having to make decisions about paying their power bills and maybe going to a movie or maybe meeting their food bill. This is really a crisis, and it's going to affect the economic future of the county. So thank you for your participation and support, and we'll see what happens.
Thank you, Mr. Turnipseed. Any other comments? Return to the board for action, which is to receive and file and authorize the board members to sign the correspondence.
So moved.
Second.
Please cast your votes.
Thank you. The motion is approved. All ayes.
Thank you. The next item is number 27, is a response to September 10th, 2019 board referral regarding the feasibility of a community choice aggregation or CCA program in Kern County. Mr. Alsop.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Thomas Brown of my office will handle this item.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. The item before you is a response to a referral from Supervisor Scribner to research the feasibility of purchasing electricity for Kern County residents through community choice aggregation. Community choice aggregation, or CCA, gives local government the authority to manage energy resources on behalf of their communities. CCA enabling legislation, Assembly Bill 117, authored in 2002, mandates that citizens are automatically enrolled in their local CCA program once it's established. AB 117 also gives residents the ability to opt out and continue receiving electricity from their current utility provider. It's important to note that customers can opt out of a CCA program at any time. Although CCA is a substantial financial and administrative undertaking for local government, programs typically provide more renewable energy choices at rates that are competitive or slightly lower in cost compared to renewable energy offered by incumbent utility companies. CCA is ultimately about consumer choice, and it brings decision-making closer to the consumer by holding local elected officials accountable for rate-setting decisions rather than the CPUC. The state's aggressive renewable portfolio standards, or RPS, mandate that 33% of retail electricity sales must be generated by renewable sources by the end of 2020 and 50% by 2030. The incumbent utilities, as well as the existing CCAs, are already offering more than 33% renewable energy in their base residential product lines. The feasibility of a local CCA project hinges on the following. Number one, what is the current demand by the public for a government-run utility program in Kern? Most CCA programs are pursued by communities due to the ecological benefits and desire to reduce the region's carbon footprint. Number two, what is the proper governance structure that best fits the needs of a local CCA project, if such a project is to be pursued? The three basic frameworks for governing a local CCC program are a joint powers authority, a single jurisdiction model, and a commercial vendor option. Number three, is the county willing to prioritize unbudgeted startup costs and take on the financial risk associated with a CCA program, considering the county has just completed a 4-year fiscal deficit mitigation plan? Based on a preliminary sampling of consultants, the cost of a CCA feasibility study alone could range from $50,000 to $150,000. Number four, by far the most significant risk to CCA development is the Power Charge Indifference Adjustment, or PCIA, exit fee. When customers are automatically enrolled in their local CCA program, the incumbent utility, in this case PG&E or Southern California Edison, is left with more electricity than it needs. Although the utility's customer base has decreased and it needs less electricity to meet its remaining customer demands, the utility is still responsible for the cost of fulfilling the electricity contracts it purchased when its customer base was larger. The utility sells the excess power it has on the open market and can recover the difference between the contract price it originally paid for the electricity and the market price at which it sells the excess energy. The price difference is charged to the departing CCA customers as the PCIA exit fee. The PCIA exit fee, therefore, results in CCA customers paying for the energy that was procured on their behalf by the utility, but that these customers will never use. If the PCIA exit fee was not allowed, the customers who opt out of CCA and remain with the utility would see their rates increase through no fault of their own. The fee is, therefore, meant to keep the utility's remaining customers indifferent to the changes brought about by CCA formation. PCIA exit fees are set on an annual basis by the Public Utilities Commission and locked in for customers based on the date of their service change. In December 2015, the CPUC issued a decision to increase the PCIA exit fee at the request of the utilities. The changes resulted in CCA customers paying roughly double the previous year's PCIA exit fees. Marin Clean Energy customers, for example, paid roughly $18.1 million in exit fees in 2015 compared to $36.4 million in 2016. Sonoma Clean Power customers paid roughly $32 million in 2015 and approximately $65 million in 2016. Despite the CPUC-approved PCIA increases in 2015, PG&E, SCE, and San Diego Gas and Electric petitioned the CPUC again in April 2017 to adopt a new arrangement for charging customers who choose CCA over their incumbent utility, arguing that the PCIA methodology was not adequately compensating the utility companies for the full share of costs associated with their electricity contract. The utility companies requested additional fees for departing load customers to ensure that bundled service customers, or those who remain with the incumbent utility, do not experience any cost increases as a result of the CCA programs in their territory. In October 2018, the CPUC issued a ruling once again increasing the PCIA exit fee rate CCA customers must pay. Based on the Phase 1 ruling, new CCAs may see an increase in the time it takes to build reserves. Likewise, the new PCIA methodology will impact the discount rate CCAs can offer customers at the commencement of operations. If the CCA is unable to offer a monthly rate that is lower than the incumbent utility, the opt-out rates may significantly increase. Overall, the regulatory landscape governing CCA is not yet settled, and important decisions regarding the allocation of contract costs borne by the incumbent utility companies will play a significant role in the ongoing financial viability of CCA programs in California. In addition, 3 working groups were formed by the CPUC to resolve remaining PCIA issues that have been deferred to a Phase 2 PCIA proceeding. Working Group 1 is tasked with resolving benchmark issues and is expected to complete its work by the end of 2019. Working Group 2 is tasked with resolving repayment issues, and work is expected to be completed in early 2020. Working Group 3 is tasked with resolving portfolio optimization and cost allocation issues, and work is expected to be completed in mid-2020. Having a precise exit fee methodology in place is a critical variable that must be considered as part of any feasibility study or financial pro forma the county conducts. Given the uncertainty of the current regulatory environment, the County Administrative Office strongly recommends that your board once again consider postponing further CCA exploration until there is a more definitive exit fee methodology in place that adequately addresses the current disparity between costs allocated to remaining utility customers and those customers who opt for CCA participation. This concludes staff's prepared comments. We're available for any questions your board may have.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Is there anyone here who would like to make a comment on this agenda item? Seeing none, I'll return to the board.
I'll go. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I made this referral, so I'm happy to go first. I just want the board to understand what my thought process is on this. I know that one of our neighbors to the southeast, Lancaster, has been what I would characterize as successful in their venture into the community choice aggregation, and they have continued to offer themselves as a resource to us if we do want to pursue this. I'm willing to accept staff's recommendation that we continue to hit the pause button to see how the regulatory environment plays out. But I think that we do need to be mindful of the fact that the County of Kern produces more renewable energy than anywhere in the state. As battery power continues to get more and more affordable, battery storage, I should say, the costs are projected to go down by at least 65% over the course of the next 3 years. I think that our opportunities will continue to expand for us to venture into this potentially. Also, the potential economic development incentives that we could provide. We have our Advanced Kern program that provides tax incentives to companies that want to locate here. I think that if we were able to provide power for a certain period of time for startup companies at a discounted rate, that could be another carrot that we could dangle for companies that would like to locate to Kern as part of our Advanced Kern program. Also, there's incorporated cities, I think, that would be interested in joining with us. And I think when you take this all, also in the context of the lack of accountability and customer service that has been exhibited by the PSP fiasco, or PSPS fiasco from SE and PG&E, I think that our constituents would be interested in us looking at some options for taking the power that's provided to them under the auspices of the county, where we are much more accountable to the people than those investor-owned utilities have been. So those are my thoughts. I'm willing to continue to watch the regulatory environment evolve, but I think that we need to be serious about looking at this as an option in the future. Thanks.
So the recommended action is just to receive. Is there anyone here who would like to make a comment on this item? Seeing none, return it to the board.
I'll make the recommended actions to receive and file, so I'll make that motion. And then I just ask staff. Also, I want to say, Thomas Brown, Mr. Brown, thank you for your work on this. I know that this took a lot of bandwidth for you to put this all together on top of everything else you've been doing. But I just ask that the CAO's office continues to monitor this and look for opportunities for us. I'll be doing the same, and I'll continue to talk to our friends in the Lancaster, at the city of Lancaster, and some other consultants that continue to reach out and have an interest in this as an option for us. Thank you.
Supervisor Maggard.
Thank you. I'll second the motion, and I just want to congratulate Supervisor Scrivener. You're having a very good day. You're hitting the marks on important stuff, and I appreciate your leadership today.
Supervisor Gleason.
I agree. Thanks, Zach, for bringing this up. I like the idea. I really do. We're leaning towards supporting in a world that is confusing, and our focus needs to be on how do we support our constituents, and this is obviously one way of doing that. Mr. Brown, you've done another sterling job at developing and digging all this whole thing up and bringing all the facts to bear. I appreciate your opinion. If this board was to make a motion to go forward with this, I'd be supportive of it. I also understand and appreciate the perspective that we might want to wait a little bit and see how it plays out. So I will be good to do that, and that's why I'm going to vote on a yes and support the motion. Thank you all.
Please cast your votes.
The motion is approved. All ayes.
That takes us to the end of the morning agenda. I want to ask Supervisor Scrivener if he'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, once again, I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn the meeting in memory and honor of Ed Waldheim, who was a leader in Eastern Kern, a leader in the off-highway vehicle community, which is such a big part of our economy out there in Eastern Kern. Ed fought stage 4 cancer for 3 years and just was a true warrior, and just so heroic the way in which he fought and continued to be such a positive influence in Eastern Kern, and just really embraced life with a lot of joy. And so my thoughts and prayers go out to his family. Thank you.
Thank you. Without objection, we are adjourned.